Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something really critical in healthcare sterile manufacturing.
Absolutely.
We're talking injectables, implants, surgical tools, things that simply have to be free of any microbes.
Yeah, the stakes are incredibly high. Any failure in sterility can have, well, really serious consequences. For patients, obviously, but also for the companies involved. Recalls, reputational damage.
Exactly. So consider this our shortcut to understanding the big shifts happening right now in this area.
That's the plan. For this deep dive, we want to get everyone up to speed on the major changes coming down the pike for, say, 2025, focusing on sterile manufacturing itself, the packaging side, and those crucial supply chains.
Okay, great. So let's jump right into manufacturing. It feels like the regulators are really turning up the heat.
That's a perfect way to put it. Regulatory bodies, globally, are definitely raising the bar for sterile drug production.
What's driving that mainly?
A big part of it, especially thinking about the FDA here in the US, goes back to some high-profile contamination incidents in the past.
Ah, right. I remember some of those hitting the news.
Exactly. They got a lot of public attention and really highlighted the dangers. So naturally, that's led to more rigorous inspections, a closer look at how things are being done.
And what are they finding? Are there common themes popping up in these inspections, like in warning letters?
Yeah, it's interesting, actually. You see certain things repeatedly. Problems with aseptic technique, basically. The specific, careful ways people need to work in sterile environments to avoid contaminating anything.
Like the procedures themselves.
Precisely, the hands-on stuff. But also, inadequate environmental monitoring comes up a lot. Not keeping close enough track of the air quality and surfaces in the clean room.
Okay.
And sometimes even fundamental things like broken HEPA filters, which are essential for that ultra-clean air. These recurring issues suggest, some real ongoing challenges.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like maintaining that level of control constantly is tough. And this isn't just a US thing, is it? I heard the EU made some significant changes too.
Oh, definitely. The EU's updated GMP Annex 1 that kicked in back in August 2023 is a really big deal.
Yep.
It demands a much more, let's say, holistic approach. They're really pushing for detailed contamination control strategies, or CCS.
CCS, so that's like an overall plan.
Exactly. A comprehensive plan that manufacturers need to map out, identify all potential contamination risks, assess them, and then figure out how to control them at every single step.
That sounds like a lot more work.
It is. Annex 1 also emphasizes using closed systems, more systems where the product isn't exposed to the environment or human operators as much, and it requires more rigorous, ongoing training for staff.
So if you want to sell sterile products in Europe now,
You absolutely have to demonstrate this robust, risk-based approach. It's not just about testing the final product anymore. You have to show you've built sterility assurance into the entire process from start to finish.
makes sense. Now, you mentioned reducing human intervention. That leads nicely into automation, right? We're hearing more about robots in clean rooms.
Yeah, that's a huge trend and, frankly, a logical response to these tighter regulations. We're seeing more automation and robotics in aseptic processing.
Like what specifically?
Things like robotic isolators. These are completely sealed units where robots do the handling, totally separating the process from people.
Right. Zero human contact in the critical zone.
Exactly. And also more advanced automation in what's called sterile fill finish, that final step of filling the drug into vials or syringes and sealing them.
So the logic is pretty simple. Fewer people involved directly means less chance of human error or contamination.
That's the core idea. Humans are, unfortunately, a major source of microbial contamination, even with gowns and training. So minimizing that direct manual handling dramatically cuts down the risk. And, it lines up perfectly with what regulators want to see: more control, less risk.
Okay, so if I'm working in sterile manufacturing right now, listening to this, what are the key things I should be thinking about, maybe acting on?
Good question. Number one, take a hard look at your environmental monitoring program. Has it been updated recently? Does it align with current thinking? Like Annex 1, that's critical.
Okay, review EM. What else?
Number two, expect FDA inspections to be even more detailed, especially if you've had observations related to clean rooms or aseptic processing in the past. They will dig into those areas.
Be prepared for scrutiny. Got it.
And third, really evaluate the potential of closed systems and automation. I know it's an investment, but they're not just nice to haves anymore. They're becoming pretty essential tools for managing risk and meeting these higher expectations.
Okay, that's helpful. So manufacturing is under the microscope. Let's shift gears a bit. What happens after the product is made? Let's talk sterile packaging. It's more than just a box, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can make a perfectly sterile product, but if the packaging fails, well, all that effort is wasted. It's literally the final defense protecting the product until it gets to the patient.
And I understand there's innovation happening there too in the materials themselves.
Yes, definitely. Especially for things like injectables or biologics, which can be quite sensitive. We're seeing newer materials with much better barrier properties.
Barrier properties, like keeping things out.
Exactly. Specifically designed to block moisture and air ingress. This is crucial for maintaining the product's stability and sterility over its shelf life, during shipping, during storage.
And it's not just the materials, but how you prove the package is actually sealed. The testing methods are getting tougher.
That's right. There's a definite move towards more sophisticated, more sensitive integrity tests. The example often cited is using helium leak detection.
Helium. Why helium?
Because helium atoms are tiny. So a helium leak test can find minuscule holes or imperfections that older methods, like maybe a dye ingress test, might completely miss. It's about getting more reliable data to prove the package seal is truly intact.
Interesting. And even here, in this super technical area, sustainability is becoming a factor.
It really is. Sustainability is a huge driver across industries, and pharma and medical device companies are feeling that pressure too. So there's a growing push for sterile packaging that's also eco-friendly.
How do you manage that? Sterile and eco-friendly.
That's the challenge. People are looking at biodegradable materials, recyclable options, but you absolutely cannot compromise the sterility barrier. It's a tricky balancing act, finding materials that meet both needs.
So for packaging professionals listening in, what are the main takeaways for them?
Okay, a few key things. First, if you haven't looked at newer barrier materials recently, now is the time. See if they offer advantages over what you're currently using.
Check out new materials.
Okay. Second, expect more scrutiny on your package integrity testing during audits. Regulators are likely going to want to see robust, sensitive methods being used and validated.
Beef up the testing evidence.
Exactly. And third, that sustainability question isn't going away. Thinking about how to balance sterility requirements with environmental goals is going to be a major focus, driving innovation.
Right. So we've got the manufacturing, the packaging, but these products still need to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the supply chain. It seems like 2023 really put a spotlight on its weaknesses.
Oh, absolutely. The pandemic aftermath, geopolitical issues, logistics snarls. 2023 really hammered home how vulnerable global supply chains can be, and that includes the ones for sterile products. Building resilience isn't optional anymore. It's essential.
And are those raw material shortages we heard about still a problem?
Yes, unfortunately, some of those persist. We're still seeing tight supply for critical items like certain sterile filters, specific types of glass vials for injectables, even some medical-grade plastics or resins.
So what's the solution there?
It really highlights the need for manufacturers to diversify their suppliers. Don't rely on a single source for critical materials. Having backup suppliers, maybe in different regions, is crucial insurance against disruptions.
Okay, diversification. Now, many new drugs, like biologics, have specific temperature needs, right? That must add another layer of complexity to the supply chain.
A huge layer of complexity. Yeah, many biologics, cell therapies, gene therapies, they're incredibly sensitive to temperature changes. Even a short excursion outside their required range can ruin the product.
So you need precise cold chain management.
Absolutely. All the way from the manufacturing site to the clinic or hospital. This is why we're seeing much wider adoption of real-time temperature monitoring systems, often using IoT sensors.
IoT, like connected sensors.
Exactly. They track the temperature continuously during transit and storage and can send alerts immediately if there's a problem, like a temperature deviation. It allows companies to intervene potentially, or at least know if the product integrity has been compromised before it reaches a patient.
And are regulators looking at this part too, how companies manage their suppliers?
They definitely are. The FDA, for example, is putting more emphasis on supplier qualification programs, meaning manufacturers really have to prove they've done their homework on their suppliers. Vetting them thoroughly up front, yes, but also having systems for ongoing monitoring to make sure the quality of incoming materials remains consistent and meets all specifications. Solid documentation is key here.
So, for the supply chain folks, what are the key messages to take away?
Okay, crucial implications. 1, Dual sourcing and supplier diversification are non-negotiable now for critical materials. Build that resilience.
Right.
2, real-time temperature monitoring is fast becoming the standard for temperature-sensitive sterile products. If you're not using it, you probably need to be planning for it.
Okay, real-time monitoring is the future.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And 3, expect tougher audits of your supply chain practices. Have your supplier qualification documentation, your monitoring data, everything in order. Regulators will be looking.
Okay, wow. We've definitely covered a lot. Stricter manufacturing rules, smarter packaging, more resilient supply chains. It feels like there are some clear themes emerging, some best practices maybe.
Absolutely. If you pull it all together, there are definitely key actions organizations need to take to, stay ahead of the curve in 2025 and beyond.
So let's summarize those. What are the top recommendations?
Okay, first, review and update those contamination control strategies. Make sure they're genuinely risk-based and reflect the latest regulatory thinking, like Annex 1.
Got it. CCS review.
Second, invest in automation where it makes sense, particularly in aseptic processing, to minimize that human risk factor.
Automation investment. Yeah.
Third, really strengthen your supplier audits and actively work on diversifying your sourcing for critical raw materials. Build that supply chain safety net.
Supplier management and diversification. Makes sense.
Fourth, implement next-gen package integrity testing. Move towards those more sensitive, reliable methods.
Better package testing.
And fifth, prioritize real-time monitoring for your cold chain, especially for temperature-sensitive products. It's becoming essential for protecting product integrity.
Real-time cold chain monitoring. Okay, that's a solid list.
Yeah, hitting those points really puts you in a much stronger position.
It really drives home that in sterile manufacturing and everything connected to it, you just can't afford to be complacent, can you?
Not at all. That's the bottom line. The regulatory pressure is up, supply chains have proven fragile, and the absolute priority is always product integrity and patient safety. There's just no wiggle room.
So the companies that embrace these changes invest wisely and adapt.
They're the ones who won't just survive, they'll thrive. They'll ensure compliance, build resilience, and ultimately protect patients.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a final thought for listeners to chew on. Given how interconnected all these shifts are, manufacturing, packaging, supply chain, how can you, in your specific role, start weaving these insights together? How can you proactively build both compliance and resilience into your work within this evolving healthcare landscape? Definitely something to think about.
Thank you, viewers, for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your colleagues. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking that subscribe button below so you never miss out on valuable insights. I'm Brian Edmonds, signing off. See you in the next one.